Klaus Barbie was born on October 25, 1913, in a town called Bad Godesberg in Germany. His family was middle class, and his father had been badly wounded during the First World War. The injury and his father's struggles affected the household deeply, creating a strict and tense environment. Klaus grew up in this atmosphere, shaped by a mixture of nationalism and bitterness over Germany's defeat in the First World War. Like many young men of his generation, he was drawn to movements that promised strength, unity, and a renewed sense of purpose for Germany. In his teenage years, Barbie went to school in the city of Trier. He was not a remarkable student, but he was disciplined and obedient, qualities that would later make him well-suited for a career in the military and police forces of Nazi Germany. When Adolf Hitler came to power in 1933, Germany began changing rapidly. The Nazi Party encouraged loyalty, order, and hatred toward groups they considered enemies. Klaus Barbie embraced these ideas and soon joined the Nazi movement. In 1935, he joined the SS, a paramilitary organization that served as one of the most powerful and feared institutions in Nazi Germany. Within the SS, he became part of the security and intelligence branch known as the SD, where he learned interrogation, espionage, and surveillance techniques. By the time the Second World War began in 1939, Barbie was already a trusted member of the Nazi security services. His early assignments took him to the Netherlands, where he worked on identifying and arresting Jewish families and people suspected of resisting the German occupation. His efficiency and dedication impressed his superiors. He was known for his loyalty and his ability to extract information from prisoners, often through cruel and violent methods. These traits earned him a promotion and a new posting in France, where his name would become infamous. After the German army moved into the southern part of France that had previously been under the Vichy government, Barbie was sent to Lyon. There he became head of the local branch of the Gestapo, the Nazi secret police. His office was located in the Hotel Terminus, near the main train station. This location would become a place of fear and horror for countless people in the region. As head of the Gestapo in Lyon, Barbie was responsible for crushing resistance movements, arresting Jews, and maintaining control over the local population through terror. Barbie soon gained a reputation for his cruelty. He personally took part in interrogations, using physical and psychological torture to get information from prisoners. People who survived his methods often described how he seemed to take satisfaction in causing pain. He would beat prisoners, use electric shocks, and keep them without food or sleep until they broke down completely. Many never left his interrogation rooms alive. These acts earned him the nickname the Butcher of Lyon, a name that would follow him for the rest of his life. One of the most notorious events linked to Barbie was the arrest of Jean Moulin, one of the key leaders of the French resistance. Moulin was captured in June 1943 after a betrayal. Barbie oversaw his interrogation, during which Moulin was brutally tortured. He later died from his injuries while being transported to Germany. Barbie's actions in this case made him one of the most hated figures in France. He also targeted Jewish children, families, and anyone suspected of helping them. In April 1944, Barbie ordered a raid on a children's home in the village of Izieu. 44 Jewish children and 7 adults were arrested, taken to a transit camp, and eventually deported to Auschwitz. None of the children survived. These crimes were among the most shocking of Barbie's time in Lyon, and would later form part of the charges against him. Throughout his time in France, Barbie's job was to maintain order and eliminate resistance. He used informants, spies, and collaborators to identify opponents of the German occupation. When prisoners were caught, they were taken to his headquarters, questioned under torture, and often sent to concentration camps or executed. By the time the war was nearing its end in 1944, thousands of people had been arrested, tortured, or killed because of his orders. As Allied forces advanced toward Lyon, Barbie tried to cover his tracks. He ordered the destruction of records and files that could connect him to specific crimes. He also ordered the execution of prisoners who might testify against him later. After Germany's defeat in 1945, Klaus Barbie went into hiding. He used false identities and managed to avoid capture by the Allies. The French authorities wanted to bring him to trial for his crimes, and in 1947, a French court sentenced him to death in absentia, but Barbie was not found. For several years he lived under assumed names in Germany. Then, in a twist that shocked historians later, he was recruited by the American Counterintelligence Corps. During the early years of the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union were bitter enemies, and the Americans were eager to gather information about communist activities. They believed former Nazi officers like Barbie could help them because of their knowledge of intelligence, networks, and their anti-communist stance. Working for American intelligence protected Barbie from being handed over to France. The Americans helped him escape Europe in 1951, using a route known as the Rat Line, which was used by many Nazi fugitives. With their assistance, he fled to South America, settling in Bolivia under the name Klaus Altmann. There, he built a new life and managed to live openly for decades. He married, had children, and became a businessman involved in shipping and trading. He also developed connections with the Bolivian military and intelligence services, advising them on counterinsurgency and interrogation tactics. Some reports claim he helped the Bolivian government track and capture revolutionaries, including involvement in the operations that led to the death of the revolutionary Che Guevara in 1967, although the extent of his role remains uncertain. For years, Nazi hunters and victims' families searched for Klaus Barbie. In the 1970s, activists like Beate and Serge Klarsfeld began campaigning publicly to expose former Nazis who had escaped justice. They discovered that Klaus Altmann was really Klaus Barbie. They provided evidence to the Bolivian government and to international journalists, making it harder for Barbie to hide his identity. Still, he remained protected by his political allies in Bolivia who valued his connections and experience. It took more than 10 years of pressure before a change in the Bolivian government allowed him to be arrested. In February 1983, Klaus Barbie was finally taken into custody in Bolivia. He was extradited to France soon after. His arrival in France was a major news event. For many French citizens, the return of the Butcher of Lyon brought back painful memories of the occupation and the suffering of the resistance fighters and Jewish families he had destroyed. Barbie was charged with crimes against humanity, which were considered the most serious offenses under international law. These charges focused on the deportations of Jewish children, the torture of prisoners, and the mass arrests and executions carried out under his command. The trial of Klaus Barbie began in 1987 in Lyon, the same city where he had committed his crimes more than 40 years earlier. Survivors, historians, and journalists attended the proceedings. The courtroom was filled with people who had suffered under his rule or who had lost loved ones to his cruelty. During the trial, Barbie refused to show remorse. He often remained silent or claimed he was following orders. His defense team argued that he was being made a scapegoat for the crimes of the Nazi system, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. Witnesses told their stories of torture, terror, and loss. The testimonies of those who had survived his interrogations were powerful reminders of the suffering he had caused. After months of hearings, Klaus Barbie was found guilty of crimes against humanity and sentenced to life imprisonment. The verdict was greeted with relief and a sense of long-delayed justice. For France, the trial was more than just a legal process. It was a moment of national reflection. It forced the country to confront the legacy of the war, the occupation, and the collaboration between some French officials and the Nazi regime. It also reminded the world that justice, even when delayed for decades, could still be achieved. Barbie spent the remainder of his life in a French prison. Reports from those who saw him said that he remained unrepentant, still believing he had done his duty as a German officer. He died in 1991 at the age of 77, suffering from cancer. His death closed one of the darkest chapters in the story of Nazi crimes in France, but the memory of what he had done continued to haunt those who survived and the generations that followed. The life of Klaus Barbie shows how an ordinary person can become capable of extraordinary evil when blinded by ideology and loyalty to a ruthless system. He was not a famous politician or a powerful general, yet the power he held over the lives of others allowed him to commit acts of immense cruelty. His story is also a warning about how justice can be delayed when politics interfere with morality. For decades, governments protected him because they saw him as useful in the struggle against communism. In doing so, they ignored the suffering he had caused and the principles of justice they claimed to uphold. When his identity was finally revealed, the world was reminded that hiding the truth only postpones the reckoning. Thanks for watching. If you have a thought on Klaus Barbie, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe.